All right, so we got to talk about Star Wars Rise of Skywalker and why there is so much over enormous amounts of negativity about this movie. My name is Taylor. I am the host of Infinity Watch, and in this video today, I'm going to be breaking down for you why I think, first of all the leaks are fake, and why there is so much negativity around this movie. You probably do a simple Google search or YouTube search, and you'll see hundreds, maybe even thousands of YouTube videos why this episode is going to be a dumpster fire, why it's going to be worse than The Last Jedi, why it's going to be this cataclysmic, horrible event for all fans, and thousands of people are going to be screaming out in terror as this movie has one of the most disturbing endings and the worst endings in the history of cinematics ever. Now, I personally believe, and this is just maybe I'm being a hopeful Star Wars fan, I think this movie's going to be good. Now, did I like The Last Jedi? No, I did not like The Last Jedi. Did I like The Force Awakens? Yeah, it had some flaws, but, the thing is with The Force Awakens is that I was able to forgive it because I anticipated the movie after it to answer a lot of questions I had, which was who was Rey's parents, who is Snoke, and what it seems like is that this movie that's coming out, The Rise of Skywalker, they're going to be answering those questions, in a very thorough way, the things that JJ has set up. Now, if you know JJ as a director, you know that he's very well aware, which is ironic, that he doesn't finish things well. He doesn't know how to end things well. However, the reason why I think this movie is going to be so good is because there are so many inconsistencies with the plot leaks. And if you don't know what the plot leaks are, they were leaked by some guy named Jedi Paxis and Jason Ward from some Star Wars website. And he's been right before, in regards to like the porgs, some things that have been leaked out, the last few movies. However, I really, really believe that these leaks are a giant misdirect. Okay, they're a giant misdirect because if you've watched J.J. Abrams' interview, he mentioned how there was like a leaked script, right, that got sold on eBay for like £60, some BS like that, which I think is absolutely fake. I think that Star Wars, they're very aware of the fandom menace. And it's funny because JJ has actually used that words in his interview. He actually called the toxic fandom the fandom menace, right? And this just seems to me like a giant, misdirect to make people believe the leaks are real. Because every time I see another trailer or another clip, like this awesome clip that we just saw of Kylo Ren talking to Palpatine, and we're hearing the voice of Snoke. I even heard Darth Maul in the beginning. I took that scene where he says "at last," it's like Darth Maul saying "at last we have our revenge," from the Phantom Menace, and then you hear "my boy," which is, I think, as akin to Count Dooku, saying "my boy." Like, so there's all these different things that are going on, and that was such an awesome trailer, and it was such an awesome way to interject once again the Duel of Fates theme. That I think they're really going to fix the sequel trilogy. Now, is it going to be perfect? Is it going to make The Last Jedi look amazing? Probably not, right? That movie is still not going to be, one of my favorite movies. It's probably the bottom of my list. I would say, dare I say it, I like Phantom Menace more than that movie because it just made more sense as far as the story goes. There wasn't pointless scenes like Canto Bight. You might argue the pod racing scene was pointless. A lot of people say that, but it wasn't really pointless because you got to see Anakin as a kid being an expert pilot, which kind of makes more sense why he's so force sensitive, but I can go on about that in another video. But, there's so much negativity toward this movie, and I honestly think is people have this vendetta to hate on something no matter what it is, no matter how good something is. Like, I was watching another YouTuber who shall remain nameless, who watched this trailer, and he enjoyed it. It's funny because he usually is he's usually against Star Wars. Ever since Last Jedi, he's been putting out content that's basically derailing, trying to make it seem like the worst thing ever, that everything after that point is going to be bad, even going as far as saying that the Mandalorian's only good for now, right? That it's going to eventually turn into this feminist show where it's just extreme. And now I'm not talking about true feminism. I'm talking about like extreme liberal bias feminism that goes to the point where like, okay, men are just all evil. Not true feminism where you're actually like fighting for equality and stuff like that. It's nothing to do with that at all. It's people have that fear just because they introduced, and I tell you what, you guys, it's so weird. They introduced the first female character in the show, then people started losing their minds. Like, it's really ridiculous. Like, come on. So, so people have this vendetta to hit on this hate on this movie, and this is because it's easier to hate on something, right? It's easier to hate on something rather than see the good and see how Disney is actually trying to fix things. Like, I commend them for doing this. The first step they did is announcing an Obi-Wan series, which is awesome. The Mandalorian is great. They brought Kevin Feige on board, so Kevin Feige is going to be producing movies, which is awesome. There's talks about, going beyond, beyond the Skywalkers, going to different, before the Jedi even began, which is even crazier. And you can even see there's a lot of fan service in the clips that they're putting out. They're putting the Duel of Fates music. This clip in itself seems like a lot of fan service, and it seems like something more like the Legends material. And, I think Disney understands that they messed up. I really think they do. And they're even, if you watch interviews, they're even criticizing The Last Jedi. Like the actors are criticizing that movie as being, it was okay. I wasn't completely 100% okay with it. And regardless of what you might think like, oh, this is a PR stunt to get people in the seats of the movie. I really think that Disney is actually trying. People are going to hate on me for this, but I actually think they're actually trying to fix Star Wars. I think they're trying to fix what they did. I think they're very well aware that Solo did not do well because of The Last Jedi. They might say in interviews that you're like, oh, no, it was bad marketing, is this and that. I think they knew deep down inside that they caused a major divide. And they're not going to say that The Last Jedi was absolute crap. They're not going to say that because that's going to piss Rian Johnson off, and that's like throwing one of your own people under the bus, right? They're not going to do that. So, that's why they're saying things like that, and they're only saying this afterwards. They're only saying this as the movie's coming out because I genuinely feel like this movie is going to be better. Now, could I be wrong? Absolutely. This movie could actually be a dumpster fire, and it could be terrible, but there's more. I have more of a hopeful feeling that this movie is at least going to be better than Last Jedi, and it's going to also have this like just crazy epicness to it. I think it's going to be crazy, like over the top fight scenes, which is awesome. That's what we want, and I think it's going to be like the similar approach to Avengers Endgame. I don't think it's going to be as good as that because Avengers Endgame, for the most part, they had very, very good movies leading up to that point. Everything was really kind of intact, and you can see that there was this big, huge plan with it. As opposed to this trilogy, there doesn't seem like too much of a plan. But that's the brilliance of storytelling. Storytelling. There's lots of things they can do with this, and kind of quote unquote make things up as they go. For example, The Mandalorian. That wasn't something George Lucas planned when he made the original trilogy. That wasn't something he planned at all. Just like Rogue One wasn't something he planned at all. But people can fill in those gaps and create a story with it. And I think JJ is actually capable of doing that, right? And when he was talking to Colin Trevorrow, the guy who's supposed to do Episode 8 and potentially Episode 9, one of the biggest stumbling blocks was Snoke. Snoke was a character that JJ introduced that people were theorizing to be Darth Plagueis and all that stuff. And then what Colin Trevorrow said, after talking to JJ, figuring out the story, saying like, okay, Palpatine is the key. Palpatine is the key to make The Last Jedi make sense. And, you can say what you want about it. You can say that like, oh, this was just something they just threw in there because they were trying to bring back nostalgia, and they knew that The Force Awakens have a lot of nostalgia, which is why people bought into that movie. And, you might say that. You might say it was a last-minute play, that it wasn't part of their plan at all. Regardless, I think it comes to show that they are actually willing to adjust. That's the thing about some studios, is that they don't give a rat's butt of what the fans think. They don't. Like if you look at Transformers, they made so many movies that fans didn't want to see, and they didn't care. They just kept making more and more. And this, as opposed to Star Wars, and we're seeing this with other studios as well. We saw it with the Sonic trailer. Have you seen that Sonic trailer? The first time it came out, people were just hating on it. And now the studio actually fixed the model of Sonic and makes people actually want to see the movie. So I really think that Disney is making a step towards making this movie good. But just based on the other stuff they've been doing. The Fallen Order game was amazing. I never played it, but I got to watch all the scenes, and my brother potentially is going to be getting it, and I'll be at least able to watch him play it or play it with him. but things are heading in the right direction for Disney. I don't believe that, the negativity. I don't think that the leaks are real. I think those are totally misdirect. I think even if it is true, like, think of it this way, you guys. Even if it is true, we don't know the context. We do not know the context. There's a lot of things that could be missing. And just spoiler warning, and I don't think these are real, but spoiler warning. I'm going to talk about the leaks right now. I'm going to talk about the leaks right now. So if you don't want to hear anything about it, just click off this video. Okay. But there was a new leak that came out that predicted the ending, basically saying that Kylo Ren and Rey are going to fight off Palpatine, and that Kylo Ren's going to get, quote unquote, yeeted off a cliff, and that he's going to come back, and save Rey by giving up his life force, and then he kisses her, and then he dies and stuff, and then Rey, using this newfound power, just kills Palpatine. Okay. I think that even if that is true, I think we are missing tons of context. I think the only way that would work, the way that would work is if it's been very established that Kylo Ren has this arc in the movie where he is, he does care about Rey, right? And there's something missing that they didn't see. Like perhaps Rey and Kylo were together at one point and her memories were wiped. Right? Maybe they were together when maybe as kids, maybe as teenagers, they both trained in the temple and they had this thing going on, and then, maybe Kylo Ren thought she died, and then found out that she's on Jakku, which is why he freaked out when he, in The Force Awakens, he's choking that guy like, hey, who's the girl, right? Even if that's true, even if it's like a love story thing, like, I get it. It's kind of cheesy. It's a little dorky. I don't really want them to do it. But if they make that context, very, very clear, and it just doesn't come out of nowhere, right? Then it would be more akin to how Anakin and Padme met. Anakin and Padme, they knew each other for a long time. And even though Anakin's a crazy sociopath who murdered innocent children and women, Padme kind of like that. So she still got with him. But still, at least there's some kind of context, some kind of buildup as to, that kind of tension. But even if that happens, and, the thing is, you guys, if Rey kills Palpatine, then yeah, I'd be pretty upset. But there has to be something there that makes it make more sense. Like if Anakin shows up, and I'm really, really believing he's going to show up. I really hope he does. Not just a Force ghost, but as a person to like physically show up there. If he gives her like some kind of energy, right? Like, or the power, like all the Jedi from all of time, and even Luke says this in the trailer, like, 1,000 generations live in you now, but this is your fight, so if all the Jedi come together and give her this massive power boost, right, and then she kills Palpatine, then I would be a little bit more okay with it. I wouldn't be as 100% okay with it. I'd rather have Kylo Ren kill Palpatine. I really would like that to happen, because he is a Skywalker, right? He is the true Skywalker. Rey isn't a Skywalker as far as we know, right? That could be a huge misdirect as well. Everybody's saying, oh, she's a Palpatine now. She's a Palpatine just because of the leaks. And, there's still a possibility that she could be a Kenobi. There's still a possibility she could be a clone. She could even be a Skywalker. She could be a Skywalker. And I even made this theory, and this theory is pretty out there. But I even had this theory that Kylo Ren is actually adopted, and that Rey is actually the true kid. That they were switched at birth. Or Kylo Ren was adopted by Han Solo, and that's why Kylo Ren felt like he didn't belong in that family, right? So there is that chance, and I think that's quite a stretch. If I happen to be right, my mind's going to be blown. But, so if Rey kills Palpatine, it would be a huge letdown. I wouldn't want that to happen that way, but the only way that would kind of make sense, is she gets powers from Anakin, because Anakin is the true chosen one. And some people have even talked about, Yoda in Empire Strikes Back saying like, oh, there is another. I don't think that he was referring to Rey. I think he was referring to Leia, right? Leia being the one, the other person in case Luke failed, right? So that's my thoughts on this movie. I really don't think it's going to be as bad as people think it is. At least I don't want to believe that. But I do think that there's an overwhelmingly amount of negativity surrounding this movie because people were so burned by The Last Jedi that they feel like everything about Star Wars is now bad. And I don't think that's a good way to judge it, right? Because if you look at Attack of the Clones, like that movie, and it's just really ironic, right? Like the prequels used to get so much hate, right? So much tremendous amount of hate, like especially episode 1 and 2, they got so much hate, but now people are praising it. And I think it's just like, if you give it a chance, this might be one of the better Star Wars movies, right? Like, you look at Revenge of the Sith, that's probably one of my favorite Star Wars movies, like, ever. It's like, it's so cool. It's the cinematography is so well done that some of the lines are a little cheesy, but that's just the way George Lucas writes his movies, right? But it was a really good story. Like, it's really awesome to see Anakin turn to the dark side and see how it happened. Like, that was one of the most interesting things that I saw. And I feel like this movie, it seems like it's going in a more dark direction. Like, it's not like all butterflies and all joyful and hopeful and stuff like that. And I think it's actually going to go in a really dark direction. Will there be a happy ending? Probably. I don't think they're, absolutely done with this movie. People keep saying it's the end, it's the end, it's the end. I'm really, really hoping that they make this a two-parter, because I think that would really justify, it'd give more depth to this movie. Because here's the thing, like, episode 8, like, a lot of people, like, I like skip that movie now. I don't even watch it. Like, I know this movie's coming out soon. I'm probably just gonna skip The Last Jedi and just watch The Force Awakens to get me more excited again, and watch the original trilogy to get excited again, and the prequels. But I'm not gonna watch The Last Jedi. So if they somehow find a way to make this movie end in like a cliffhanger, like, I would love it, absolutely love it, if they end the movie with Rey turning bad, just straight up. She doesn't be good. She turns bad. She joins the Emperor. She becomes the Empress. Or even if she kills the Emperor, if she becomes the Empress, the Empress, she becomes the daughter of Palpatine, essentially, and takes his place or takes his side, and the movie just, ends with "to be continued" in like the blue. I would love that. That would make me so excited for episode 10. And it would, it might seem like they're retconning The Last Jedi, but screw it. At this point, screw it. Just retcon it. It's okay. It's totally fine. Movie studios do this all the time. Like, it's kind of like trying to continue where the Fox's Fantastic Four left off. Like, really? Are you going to really try to do that? No, you're just going to retcon it. You're going to reboot it, right? And that's what Marvel has done, and I think people will be forgiving of that. Of course, there's going to be haters that are going to hate on that decision. They're going to be like, oh, they're just milking it out, and they're just trying to do it. It's like, nah, man, I think that's a great idea to make this a two-parter. Like, and I have this kind of weird gut feeling that might actually happen. Like, I have this gut feeling that they are making this movie in a way that even like the reshoots and stuff like that, think about it this way. They stopped that 2 weeks ago. That seems oddly suspicious and oddly familiar to the way they were, filming Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. It was announced, a couple of years ago, that, and obviously these sources aren't confirmed to be true. They weren't from Disney themselves, but there's rumors going around that episode 9 would be in 2 parts, right? In 2 parts. And suddenly it's not anymore. Same thing with Avengers Endgame, and Infinity War. They announced, and they officially announced that it's going to be 2 parts, and then suddenly it wasn't going to be that anymore. And then we saw the end of Infinity War, and we knew that was their plan all along. They were just trying to hide it by not making you expect that crazy ending of the movie, right? So I think that this might have a similar thing. I could be wrong. I probably am, but if that's true, that would really, really get me excited. And what better release day than May 4th to release part 2, right? Come on, that would be amazing if they did that. If they ended this movie with such a downer ending, a cliffhanger where Rey wins, Ben Solo turns good, or even if he dies, I would like him to come back in some way. Maybe they live that a cliffhanger, like he falls off the cliff, and then maybe in episode 10 he climbs out of it and he's alive. It would be really, really cool if they did that, right? And it would be more closure to the Skywalker saga. Because if you're really ending, the all 9 movies, I think you got to make this into 2 parts, because if episode 8 was good, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Like, the people wouldn't be hating as much as they are now. But if episode 8 was good, this movie would definitely end on 9. But I got this feeling, man, that there's going to be episode 10. And call me crazy, but, I think they might do that because they saw how successful Avengers Endgame was and Avengers Infinity War, that if they followed this formula, and ironically enough, they brought Kevin Feige on for a reason, right? Because they want Star Wars to turn into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I would love that. I think that'd be really cool, especially if we have the that like like a new threat, like the Reservant, or I can't remember what they're called. They're like these alien species that are you can't use the Force on them. If you comment down below what that species is, because I can't remember. I think they're called the Vons or something like that. You're using Vaughn or something like that, where they, there's this alien species that try to take over, all the planets, and they are brutal, and they have been involved with Darth Maul at some point, and expanding universe. Like, that would be a really cool setup, and it would be really cool to see all these characters come back to that point. Because even if this movie ends like the leaks say, right, they end with Rey getting her yellow lightsaber and burying the Skywalker's lightsaber, and like, that's still kind of a cliffhanger ending, because people are gonna wonder, like, oh, how come we're never gonna see her with her yellow lightsaber anymore? Like, that they just show it once and then we never get to see it again. Like, that's why I don't think the ending is true. Like, I don't know, guys. I'm ranting, but this was a very long video. But yeah, I'd like to hear you guys' thoughts. Comment down below. If you guys have not subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell. I'll be releasing more videos. Hope you guys have an awesome day, and I'll see you all next time.